Hey, good morning. Glad you're up. A man calls 911 begging to be deported. His name is Cesar Sanchez, asking Florida police to send him back to his home country of Guatemala. He was arrested for misusing the emergency line and is now being held by immigration officials, so maybe his dream can come true. An anti-American dream. And a high school team named sparking major outrage. The South Burlington School Board in Vermont voting to drop the nickname Rebels, saying previous connections to the Confederacy may make some students feel unsafe. Critics considering legal action, claiming the name represents pride, not the Confederacy. More on that later. Ainsley.
All right, thank you, Brian. The media melting down over the firing of FBI Director James Comey. Watch this.
President Trump's stunning decision to fire FBI Director James Comey has plunged his White House into chaos.
This country could be careening towards a constitutional crisis.
What's the line between service to the president and service to the country, sir?
I will never compromise my own values.
I mean, it almost feels like a scene out of The Godfather, but it's not. It's real.
Put this into context for us, because some are comparing this to Watergate.
What's going on here is an effort to cover up the fact.
I mean, what kind of country is this?
Well, here to react and break down some more media madness is the media director for Campus Reform, Cabot Phillips. Good morning to you, Cabot.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. I'm sure you watched over the weekend. What was your reaction?
Absolutely. My reaction was that I'm wondering now if the liberal media and Democrats as a whole just already have these perfunctory statements of outrage just typed up already. And whenever Donald Trump does a new thing or passes new legislation, they just kind of like a Mad Lib, just insert his new thing into this statement of outrage and just begin to decry it as the most outrageous thing ever and as something that's careening our country, towards the abyss. And really, I think that every single action the president does, the media as a whole is determined to push this narrative that it's the worst thing that's ever happened and that the president and his administration are undermining the legitimacy of our country. And so the media is not doing their job. They're doing a disservice to the American people by instantly painting any action of the president as illegitimate and as dangerous.
Cabot, let's go through some of these examples that we saw over the weekend. You have Dan Rather on Facebook, and he wrote, "Future generations may mark today as one of the truly dark days in American history, a history that may soon take an even more ominous turn." What's your reaction?
I think this is going to begin to backfire. When everything is sensational, nothing is sensational. And most on the left media are trying to portray every action, and they're trying to feed into the fears that Americans have about President Trump. And they're trying to push this narrative they started way back during the campaign.
What did you think about Dan Rather doing this? Sean Hannity wrote back to Dan Rather when he wrote that on Facebook. Sean wrote on Twitter, "Dan, how quickly you forget the incompetent reporting you did for CBS News. How is that National Guard investigation going?"
It's a complete double standard. Look, when President Obama was president, did we have any people in the mainstream media asking Lois Lerner if she was more loyal to the president or more loyal to our country? Or Eric Holder if he was loyal to the president or to our country after scandal after scandal? It's a double standard of people wanting to give different coverage to President Trump because they want this narrative to feed into the fears of Americans. And so, again, when you see things like that, you need to realize that this is not a fair shakedown. They've already made up their mind. The coverage they're going to give President Trump. No one is looking at the actual issues themselves. They're just determined to try and paint him in a negative light.
A lot of people, Trump supporters and Republicans mainly around the country, are saying they aren't able to realize that Hillary Clinton did not win the election. They want to continue the narrative. Listen to this. This was in the New York Times. This was a headline in the New York Times. "The election is over, but Trump can't seem to get past it." What do you think about that?
It's Trump that can't get past it. When Hillary's coming out in these statements saying, well, if the election had happened a week beforehand, I'd be your president right now. I don't think anyone forced Hillary Clinton to stay out of Wisconsin. I don't think anyone forced Hillary Clinton, to not be able to get past any of the scandals in her past. She needs to take personal responsibility and stop trying to push everything on President Trump. Trump is ready to move past this thing. He's trying to get to the issues. But when you see the left trying to constantly prop up Hillary Clinton still trying to undermine the president's legitimacy, it just shows the narrative they're trying to push, and it shows their double standard.
All right, Cabot Phillips, thank you for joining us again. Great to see you.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. The mainstream media is spinning up a big story about a major staff shakeup at the White House. But haven't we heard that before? Former Trump deputy campaign manager David Bossie is here to react in the next hour. And she is the newest member of the Fox and Friends family, and she's coming in swinging. Look at that. So who is Jillian Mealy? We followed her to her hometown to find out, and you'll get to know her with us. That's coming up next.